This procedure explains how to add a Wikipedia article. To begin, look up the word on Wikipedia. If you can't find the term you're looking for, you go back to the beginning and try again. If you can't find the term you're looking for, you'll have to look for a comparable term. You establish a redirect if there is a similar word. You can start a new article if there isn't a redirect. As a whole, there are a number of steps that must be taken before a Wikipedia page may be created. Using the accompanying bar graph, we can see how many Australians had internet connection between 2001 and 2004, in millions. For one thing, the number of people who have internet connection has increased dramatically since 2001, growing from 40 million to slightly under 60 million in 2004. In general, the number of Australians with access to the internet has risen steadily each year, reaching a peak in 2004. The graph below shows the current status of nuclear power plants in Europe. The biggest nuclear power generation, as seen on the map, is in France, with 58 reactors. Following that, Russia has the second largest, with a total of 30. The Netherlands, on the other hand, has the least number at 1. Spain has 7, Germany has 8, and the United Kingdom has 15. Finally, France is the world's greatest nuclear power producer. China's power generation by type is shown in billion kilowatt-hours on this graph from 1994 to 2004. Conventional thermal electricity generated in 1994 was roughly 750 billion kilowatt-hours, which quadrupled in 2004 to around 1,500 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity. In 1994, hydroelectric power generated 150 billion kilowatt-hours, which increased to 400 billion kilowatt-hours in 2004. From 1994 to 2004, the generation of both conventional thermal electricity and hydroelectric electricity grew significantly. These percentage-based pie charts demonstrate the distribution of water across the world. In the larger pie graph, salt water accounts for 98% of the total volume of water. Only 2% of the world's water is fresh. More than 87% of fresh water comes from glaciers and snow, followed by groundwater and rivers and lakes, 1%. In all, salt water accounts for the great majority of all water, whereas fresh water consists primarily of ice. From 1970 to 2010, this graph shows how much fruit and vegetables Americans eat each year in terms of pounds per person. The average American in 1970 consumed about 240 pounds of fruits and 328 pounds of veggies per year. There were approximately 255 pounds of fruits consumed per person each year in 2010, while there were approximately 390 pounds of vegetables consumed each year. From 1970 to 2010, vegetable consumption was consistently higher than fruit consumption. The given image is of dual-line graph getting us an important piece of information on the average sizes of classrooms in the United Kingdom. The period of observation is from 1994 to 2006. While we have years mentioned on the x-axis, the y-axis mentions the average class sizes ranging from 19 to 29. The primary class is marked with greenish dotted line whereas the secondary is with purple. While both the lines run almost parallel, the primary class size had increased a little bit in 1998. The secondary line does not have ups and downs. Overall, we can conclude that both the lines remain constant at their own places. This graph gives information about journeys made by men and women in the United Kingdom in 2006 according to their purpose. According to the graph, we can see that there is the largest percentage of men-made journeys for commuting and business, following by shopping. However, only few of them went the journey for the holiday or walking. According to the graph, we can also see that most of the women made their journeys for shopping, following by visiting friends. In conclusion, walking and day trip is the most unusual purpose of journey in the United Kingdom. Pictured here is an area near a massive mountain or volcano. Older houses with barred windows and tiled roofs may be seen in the foreground. On a sunny day, a massive mountain or ancient volcano can be seen bursting through the clouds. The image resembles a little town in Italy or South America since the houses appear to be old and cozy. The table indicates a direct link between the number of alcohol-related fatalities and the amount of liters of beer drank per capita. The Czech Republic, Germany, and Austria had the highest beer consumption in 2002, and each of these countries had the highest alcohol-related mortality in 2005. The Czech Republic, which had the highest beer consumption per litre in 2002, almost 130, also had well over 1 million litres of alcohol-related fatalities by 2005. Germany had the second highest beer consumption, with approximately 107 litres consumed, and it also had the second highest number of alcohol-related deaths, with 1.185 million deaths. With the exception of Canada, the higher the beer consumption, the higher the alcohol-related death rate. There is a bar graph that displays the estimated number of visits to each city by country of origin in 2018. Madrid was the most popular tourist destination in Mexico, with 62,000 visits, while London was the least popular, 20,000 visitors. Istanbul was the most popular, 70,000 visitors, while Madrid was the least popular, 5,000 visitors, 30,000. Paris, 100,000, was the most popular tourist destination in the United States, while Istanbul, 60,000, was the least popular, 60,000. People from the United States were more likely to go to other cities than Mexicans and Canadians. From 2008 to 2014, the line graphs indicate the average monthly amount spent by British parents on their children's athletic activities, as well as the number of British children who participated in 3 different sports. Over the course of 6 years, parents spent more money on their children's engagement in sports. Football was substantially more popular than athletics and swimming in terms of participation by youngsters. The graph below depicts the chemical components of air. Oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases are among the things. The value in oxygen is approximately 20%, as you can see from this graph. This graph shows that the value in other gases is approximately 1%, which is lower. This graph shows that the value for nitrogen is approximately 79%, which is the highest. The color pink is also visible in oxygen, as seen in this graph. Carbon dioxide, argon, and water vapor are among the other gases. Finally, this graph is quite useful. This is a comparison of the number of people who saw a film at a cinema in each country. At 24.5 million, India has the biggest number of cinemagoers in the world. Action was the most popular genre in India, while horror was the least popular, at 2.5 million. Despite this, Japan is the country with the lowest number of cinemagoers, at 17.8 million. At 7.1 million viewers, action was the most popular genre, while horror was the least popular, at 2.2 million. In terms of total number of moviegoers, India has the largest number while Japan has the lowest. Data on land usage in Australia's catchment areas is shown on the map. 1 to 5,000 is the lowest scale of mapping, which is visible on several of the country's major rivers and in its northern regions. In the center of the country, in the red area, is the biggest scale of 1 to 250,000. On a scale from 1 to 250,000, the country's population is represented in its entirety. The average rainfall in several cities is depicted in this bar graph, which is measured in inches. There were 47.25 inches of rain on average in New York City in 2017. Honolulu came in third with 33.70 inches, followed by Dallas, 22.02 inches. Phoenix had the lowest annual rainfall average, at just 7.66 inches. New York had the most rain, while Phoenix had the least. There are several languages spoken in Switzerland, as seen on this map. On the map, it's easy to see that German is the most widely spoken language. The vivid green indicates French, which follows. The yellow districts in southeast Switzerland show where Italian is the least spoken language. Generally speaking, German is Switzerland's most widely spoken language, whereas Italian is the least widely spoken language there. In 2000, the world's estimated illiteracy rates by area and gender are shown in the bar graph. Women in sub-Saharan Africa, Arab states and South Asia were the most illiterate, with illiteracy rates hovering just around 50% in each of these regions and as high as 55% in South Asia. They all came from South Asia, where the illiteracy rate was barely around 35%. In South Asia, both men and women were the most illiterate, whereas in industrialized nations, both men and women were the least illiterate. Charts showing Apple's revenue, in millions, and gross margin, in percent, from iPhone's introduction. Gross margins peaked in Q1 F 2012 at over 46% and fell to roughly 32% in Q2 F 2008. Revenue has risen steadily, from a low of $5,000,000,000,000 in Q3 F 2007 to a peak of $55,000,000,000,000 in Q4 F 2012. Generally speaking, Apple's gross margin was at its greatest level since the debut of the iPhone in Q1 2012, and its lowest since Q2 2008. Revenue peaked in Q4 of 2012 and fell to its lowest level in Q3 of 2007. Using percentages, this graph displays the countries of origin of legal immigrants to the United States between 1992 and 2012. In 1992, the majority of immigrants came from Latin America and the Caribbean, 44%. Immigrants from the Asia-Pacific region and Latin America the Caribbean made up the bulk of the country's foreign-born population in 2012. 38%. Only 2% of immigrants came from North America in 1992 and 1% in 2012, making it the least prevalent location of origin. More immigrants from Latin America Caribbean arrived in the United States in 1992 and 2002 than those from North America.